Welcome back to the All Things ITSM Global podcast today, coming to you live from HDI. So now we have Ken Gonzalez joining us at the table.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So come on, Ken, tell us what you've been doing recently that the world wants to hear about.
Well, I don't know necessarily the world wants to hear about it, but if,
well, they are now.
Yeah, really.
Depends on how much you're prepared to admit.
Take the opportunity. Two of the things I think that are really important for 2015 and beyond, and some of them I've actually heard around the show here, has been, number one, customer experience. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are talking about customer experience these days.
Yep.
And one of the things I've been getting ready to do and start doing through the remainder of 2015 is some service experience design workshops.
Right.
And the thing I think is really exciting about it is that it takes and blends concepts that we're already familiar with in the ITSM world, understanding from the provider side what somebody needs to do to actually provide effective customer service, but also look at it from the front end perspective. So we can understand the customer journey and the experiences that the provider needs to be able to reach out and connect with for the customer. So it's not like you're going into a re-engineering effort, but you're taking those and mapping those interactions out so that you can get more efficient, more effective, and do it without a lot of expensive re-engineering work up front. Because if you're doing that, for the most part, you're going to be guessing, unless you can identify what are the specific moments of truth that we need to get so that in order for us to be successful as a provider and have the customer really recognize that we do care and we're trying to do the right things for you, it's unlikely that you're going to be placing a bet that's going to be well placed.
I have to say, I did one of those service experience design workshops, and we put our customer through it, and it was just so revealing to actually get someone to tell the customer story. Yeah, so someone just basically said what had happened. You do the pre-transaction, the during transaction, post-transaction thing, and you get the customer's perspective, and then you get the service provider's perspective, and you see the gap, the delta between the two is just incredible, and how a service provider can make a massive amount of difference in service by just providing the right communication at the right time. And if you can understand what actually goes on from the customer's perspective, and so many service providers don't, you can make a hell of a lot of difference without actually doing too much. You don't really have to invest too much. You just understand the customer's journey and understand where you need to provide the right type of support, the right type of information, and then you can truly change the experience across the board.
I mean, I had one of my clients, I was working with them, and they sent me an email stream of, we don't know what's going on and stuff. And I looked, and I just, in like 2 minutes, I looked at it. There were 25 different email exchanges. And that wasn't counting the one-offs that came from there. And I went back to them and said, "What do you think they're going to be happy with this?" I says, "This isn't really brain surgery. First of all, it's an email that's like 17 pages long now. It's going back and forth. I think this, I think that, and I was like, that's where your problem is. You can't do that. But until they recognize that, and, in the workshops are going to bring that out and present it. This is what's going on. It has to change. I mean, you can't continue down that pattern. It's just inefficient. They get upset with it. It's crazy.
It just never ceases to amaze me that. I think I tweeted something about this before, and the tweet went around like wildfire, is that, we are all customers and all consumers.
Yes.
And the moment we go to work, we instantly forget that. And we become a service provider. We put our service provider's hat on, and we have this kind of blinkered view of how things should be. And if you were treated like that as a customer, you just wouldn't accept it.
No.
But the term, I think it was Hank Marquis a few years back when I was doing some work with him, kind of coined the term prosumer. Because we're the producer, we're the consumer. It depends on at what point in time I can be a producer to you and you're consuming. 10 minutes later, it's totally reversed. And we're all in that situation. Rarely are we ever just producing. So I think it's just an acknowledgement and acceptance of this is the reality of it. So.
And part of the fun about it is really that you get in a room, you use some simple techniques like Post-it notes, markers, whiteboards, very, very low tech. And in the course of a half day, you end up with anywhere from 3 to 10 actionable insights that will create a tangible difference in the customer's experience and not only alter your relationship with the customer, but alter your relationship with the work that you do.
Yes.
So that some of the things that you thought, oh, it's going to take us a lot of money and a lot of time to take and rewire this to be better for the customer.
Yeah.
No,
No.
really doesn't need any of that stuff.
Right.
And yeah, there may be some things you want to do in the future that might be automation related or something more advanced, but it's likely a decision you can defer.
Yeah.
And you get both a kick in customer value as well as a kick in provider value, because it's money that you can now invest in something else that's more meaningful and timely.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely always those tactical elements that we can go do this. Maybe this isn't the way we want to do it long term. We want to automate it or whatever. But hey, if we can do it in the interim with Post-it notes and spreadsheets or whatever, there's the value. Now let's put something in place longer, more strategic for the long haul, for the full enterprise. We get caught up sometimes. We will only build it the perfect way,
Yeah.
which never comes
Yes.
along.
Yeah.
And 20 years later, here we are having a conversation again. So we're still not doing it. So.
Well, when we ran the service experience design class for customers, what we did is we invited about 12 different organizations, and a few of them sent a few people. They all got into the room, and at the end, we had the feedback sheets, and it said it was the most revealing, valuable, and insightful exercise that they performed, that probably the best investment they've made in any form of education. They were praising it.
And that wasn't a
singing.
huge investment of
It
time.
wasn't a
No.
huge investment of time.
No,
It was
at the-
two days we ran the whole thing.
Yeah.
At the end of it, did they also say, please don't make this public? Because because that's typically when I do some of these assessments, they're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
and then like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Don't tell anyone, because they recognize some of it from embarrassment.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, I can't believe how dumb we've been on these simple little things
Yes.
that we could have just fixed this 4 years ago. Oh, you've been doing this why? But yes, I see some of it. They're like, okay, please don't share.
But
that.
do you not find that people generally think that anyway, that they are the worst at everything?
I think they are.
Everyone else
Yeah.
must be better than us,
Yeah.
and it's rarely ever the case,
It's like, no, there's always worse.
Yeah, there always is.
Well, and the second part that I'm focused on for this year is organizational culture and transformation and
Yeah.
leadership.
Yes.
And it directly relates to
I was just
what you
gonna
just
say.
said, because I think that we're often our harshest critics.
Yeah.
Instead of being able to acknowledge the reality of something and let it be that, evaluate it for what it is, and use that as your starting point for moving forward. It's more along the lines of, I think we're used to making excuses, we're used to placing blame, we're used to all sorts of adaptations to kind of deflect things, instead of just owning, we've had problems in the past, and this is an opportunity to declare a break from the past and now chart a new path forward. A lot of leaders and managers aren't necessarily comfortable of dealing with the discomfort of being in the middle of that,
Yeah.
or how to deal with the uncertainty that's associated with it. And when you tack onto that the fact that changing business conditions might warrant, I got to get rid of some staff, I need to take some services and outsource them, or change the way that you're actually providing them, that can be kind of a tough thing. So I've got some very specific tools to help managers actually walk through that and address the things that are going to be of concern not only to them but also to their direct reports. And I think they're very much complementary initiatives. Because if you start trying to do any sort of improvement effort that looks at that without addressing the people dimension, you're setting yourself up for a
Yeah.
tremendous failure.
Yeah, it never works if you don't
No.
manage the people first.
Personally, I'm delighted because we were talking earlier on in one of the other guests about things like DevOps and stuff like that. All these cultures that are coming in and all these approaches that are coming in, methods or whatever you want to call them, they're all based on this concept of openness, transparency,
Yes.
no blame, and collaboration, and enabling people, and just not managing people and telling them
Yep.
what to do, but actually giving them a problem, letting them work on it, figure out for themselves, and let them manage themselves and
Yes.
deliver value. This is something we need a lot more of at IT service
Yeah.
management.
But I mean, and I know, Patrick, you and I have had this conversation a million times. The fundamental problem is.
1,000,001 now.
Million. We're always striving for more.
Yeah.
Continual service improvement. It's the problem is we're still incenting the very behaviors we're trying to break.
Yeah.
we still monetarily, financially incent the very ones we're trying to break.
Yeah, measure in silos and. yeah,
So
all
we're
that
measuring
stuff.
that, and then we don't understand why it is that they're doing this. That's what we're paying them for.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing on the performance review. You know, you keep servers up, you keep network up, and I don't understand why you're pointing the finger at him.
Yeah.
Well, because I'm giving you your bonus based
Yes.
on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So until we fundamentally get that, and to the other point on your earlier aspect is accepting our warts. You know, accept the fact that, you know what, we're kind of not great on this.
Yeah.
But you know what, for our business, for our line of business, for our maturity state, I'm okay with that.
Yes.
It's a conscious decision. I'm making it, I'm accepting it. A year from now, I may need to change it. I probably need to change it. But I'm not gonna worry about it and stop everything else to do that. It's like, you know what, it is
But
what it is.
That's one of the key things in the service experience design, basically
Yes.
recognizing the fact that you cannot be exceptional
Yeah.
at everything.
Everything.
So there are
Except for you,
things-
Patrick.
Yeah, well, that's different. I'm
Yeah.
not, anyway. But there are elements in the delivery of service to a customer that the customer doesn't really care about. Now, you as a service
Exactly.
provider can often have the view that they do care about it, but in actual fact, no, they don't. So
Yeah.
understanding what's important to them, actually in service strategy, if you, I can't remember the page number, but.
What?
It would be
You
sad.
can't remember the page
In service
number.
strategy, it talks about kind of the need for, to understand the customer's perspective of service.
Yes.
And that's wrong. Customer's perspective of value.
Yes.
Their perception of value, that's what you need to understand. Service is not important. It's
No,
the
it does, the
value.
service doesn't matter to
The
them at
outcome,
all.
the
It's
outcome.
what
They
it
want
does
the
for their
outcome, the
business.
value.
It's
Yeah.
because we, and I've always had that sort of as a pet peeve of mine, is we use the wrong words for the wrong things.
Yeah.
We'll say service, most of us mean value, but we don't use the term value.
Yeah.
Then others have a different definition of what service is, and we're thinking, well, of course, it's value, it's not just
Yeah.
service, it's value. It's not the black and white words on the book or in the, trifolds, it's what is the principle that you're trying to get to?
I'm just remembering this,
Yeah.
the definition for, I'll tell you, I'm really sad. The definition for service is going through my head now.
Yeah. From
And
the
it's
books,
really
yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
It's a terrible definition.
But, to your point, Pat, every service provider is going to make choices about where they fail and where they're going to
Yeah.
invest. You have to do it, because you're not going to be in a situation where you have unlimited resources and unlimited attention so that you can focus on everything. It doesn't matter if, for those things that are moments of truth or moments of need, that the customer really needs you to get right, because if you don't, it's going to negatively impact their view of you as a service provider. If it's something other than that, we should be shooting for a neutral. The old definition of highest possible quality at lowest possible
Yeah.
cost, that needs to be taken out,
Yeah.
beaten, and burned.
Yeah.
Because
Buried.
it's just
Yes.
not,
Yeah.
it's not appropriate anymore.
But we've been doing that on the the hardcore technology side, these systems need to be all high availability and stuff like that. And I'd sit there and it says, no, how much, you want a high availability? Fine. You want to pay that premium?
Yeah.
Well, no. Well, then, do you really need it? No. Then why are you saying it?
Yeah.
So we do the same thing. The service has to be there. And,
But a lot of these questions are going away, and the old kind of, paradigms of kind of availability, and cloud is available 24/7, 365.
Right.
You've got things that people expect stuff to be
Yes.
on,
Yes.
always on,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to have resilience. And so all of the stuff that we were talking about previously is just being removed, and the relevance of the IT discussion around that is beginning to become, it's diminishing. It really is.
I mean, part of that is like based upon fear.
Yeah,
So if somebody says it needs to be always on,
Yeah.
well, gee, that's probably based in a historical experience of something that when they
fell
needed
over.
it,
Yeah.
it wasn't there.
Yeah.
But we live in a different day. We live with an entirely different set of technologies that are much more resilient and much more robust than anything
Yeah.
that we had when I was doing development.
Well, yeah, I mean, it makes, providing that much more cost affordable
Yeah.
and feasible versus before, nobody really wanted to stand up and say, well, do you really need it 24/7?
Yeah.
And here's the cost associated with that. Like I said, now, some of these things have been really just commoditized that it's really not even a question. We shouldn't be
Yeah.
talking about it in that manner anymore, because we're just really wasting our time. It's in the cloud or in private cloud, it doesn't matter. Even a lot of the internal data centers, they're structured essentially as clouds anyway, so who cares?
Yeah.
But
Things just
we're
needs to
having
be-
the same old discussions on a different
Exactly.
topic now.
Exactly.
And still just
And
banging our heads
consumer
against the wall.
expectations are quite different though now too, because if you look at a 10-minute Twitter outage is global news. It's on.
Yeah.
It is. It's
Yes, it
around
is.
the world.
It is.
It's front page on every news site. Twitter's out, and it might be 5 minutes. I mean,
You can't tweet it, though,
expectations.
that's the only problem.
Yeah.
No,
Nobody
you
told
can't
us.
tweet about it. Yeah, but it is. I mean, expectations of availability for a lot of services are very high.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that term because that's the other term that, again, that I use all the time. It's like you have to set the right expectations.
Yes, that's right.
If there are the expectations, right or wrong, if the expectation that it's up 24/7 with total resilience and stuff, guess what? That's what you need to
That
meet.
you have to provide that.
Or you need to work with your clients and stuff, companies to say, okay, I know that's your expectation, but is that really what you need?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something I find I do a lot in the work that I do is you are managing expectations.
Absolutely.
You're setting the expectations so people know what they can realistically expect
Yep, exactly.
and why.
And the costs associated with it, right?
Yeah.
It's, we
Yeah.
all want
yeah.
lots of stuff. I had a conversation with my kids a long time ago, and I said, do you need it or do you want it?
Yes.
3 years later, my son from the back seat kind of said,
Yeah.
Daddy, do you really need that? I was like, no, I just want it. All right,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Right. Well, thank you for your time today, Ken.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, as always.
Thanks.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.